Hello, welcome to the Dartmoor Bikes YouTube channel. My name is Piotr Krajewski.
And I'm Andrzej Macha.
And in today's episode, we're gonna be talking about the Enduro bikes for 2021. If you're interested in other bikes, not the Enduro ones, but more like dirt jumping or trail bikes, you can find the appropriate videos in the Dartmoor Bikes YouTube channel. So today we're gonna be talking about the typical Enduro bike, Dartmoor Bikes Blackbird, which will go in two versions, 27.5 and 29. And here we have also two versions.
Yeah, because of the different spec level, we have the Evo version and we have the Intro version.
As we said before, this is an Enduro bike, which is designed for more advanced terrain, bigger jumps, bigger drops, and basically more advanced terrain.
Definitely, so that's why in the Blackbirds we will find 160mm travel.
Okay, so let's talk about the Intro version. What we have here.
Okay, the Intro versions, we call them Intro, but it doesn't mean you need to immediately replace half of the components there. Our Intro bikes are the bikes for those who start their adventure with the enduro riding, but they do not have to change anything in the bike. Certainly after some time of riding, maybe you will find out that you need some replacements, some upgrades, but you can take it out of the box and ride in the mountains because we took care to use in these bikes everything what is really necessary for riding in the mountains.
So in this version we don't have a seat post dropper, right? That's the one difference.
Yeah, this version is without seat post dropper. It's certainly the issue of the price. To make the bike more affordable, we are offering it without the seat post dropper. Some of you who will be using at the beginning only the lifts to get to the mountain maybe will not find it as a real problem, but later certainly it's maybe one of the first upgrade steps.
Okay, so as we were speaking about the seat post dropper, in the Evo version there is one.
Yes, certainly in the Evo version we have the dropper and it's the X-Fusion Manic, again with the travel from 125 up to 170mm, depending which size we are talking about.
When you talk about enduro bikes, suspension is like a key factor. So what's there?
So in the Evo version, we are using the RockShox suspension. In front, you will find the 35 Gold full suspension fork with 160mm travel. So it's the enduro dedicated RockShox fork. And for the rear suspension, we have here in the Evo version Super Deluxe Select shock, which is a metric shock. In this bike, 230 by 65mm size. The metric size is something new in the Blackbird because before we had the imperial sizing, but we changed this for 2021 and now you will find here metric shocks.
Okay, so we know what's in Evo. Let's talk about Intro version.
Okay, when we talk about the suspension in the Intro version, because we talk about the enduro bikes, so we still keep 160mm fork, but in the Intro versions, we have the X-Fusion forks. For 27.5 wheels Blackbird, we are using the Sweep fork with 160mm travel. And for the Blackbird Intro 29, we are using the X-Fusion Trace. Why the difference between the 27.5 and 29? Because the Trace is more beefier. It's using 36mm upper legs. It's more stiff definitely, what's pretty necessary for big wheels when you are riding enduro. And for the rear suspension in the Intro versions, you will continue with using the X-Fusion O2 Pro Air, but again with the metric sizing.
Okay, so we talked about suspension, we talked about the different options that those bikes come with. Now let's talk about the drivetrain. So let's start with the Intro version.
Okay.
What's there?
So in the Intro version we have the drivetrain. It's something new in the Dartmoor collection of bikes. We never used the microshift drivetrains before, but we decided to change it. We were looking for something affordable but for something which will have...
That will last longer, yeah?
Yes, exactly. We are looking for something solid, we are looking for something reliable. For the beginners, which after longer time of riding, they still can trust the drivetrain, yeah?
So that's the difference. Here we have 9 gears, right?
9 gears, but the cassette is 1146, so the range is quite big. You still can uphilling quite well, but we need to say that the rear derailleur in this Microshift Advent rear derailleur is with the clutch. So that's the difference also with the 2020 bike, because before we had a SRAM SX 12 speed, but without the clutch. So after quite short period of time, the drivetrain was not really precise anymore.
And the Evo version?
The Evo version is using for 2021 Shimano Diore 11 speed with 1150 cassette with the FSA Comet heavy duty crankset. So the crankset dedicated for the more heavy duty, exactly, kind of riding. Exactly for this kind of riding, Blackbird is dedicated. So we wanted to find a crank which will survive the tough ride.
Okay, so at the beginning we're talking about how to accelerate and the suspension. Now let's talk about braking. So what are the brakes there?
In the Evo version, there are the SRAM Guide T brakes, so the 4-piston brakes. And when we talk about the braking, we need also to talk about the rotors. So for the 29-inch Blackbird, the front rotor is 200 millimeter size, and for the 27.5, both are 180 millimeters. And in the intro bike for 2021, I think the difference is bigger, because before we were using the Tektro 2-piston brakes, and now we will be using Shimano 410 and 420 brakes. 410 for the rear brake is a 2-piston brake, but for the front brake we are using 420 model, which is 4-piston brake.
Okay, so to sum it up, we're going in the direction for the better brakes and normal drivetrain.
Exactly.
So we talked about drivetrain, suspension, brakes. Next factor, key factor, tires.
We keep using the WTB Vigilante model with a pretty aggressive tread. In the Evo version, we are using the top compound dedicated for the front and for the rear. In front, you will find the light high grip compound, and in the rear wheel, you will find tough fast rolling. And in the intro version, there are the same thread, Vigilante, WTB Vigilante tires, but certainly with the regular compound. And when we talk about the size of the tires, it's 2.5 inch.
So when we talk about bikes, there are different types of riding. Someone prefers more jumping, yes, it's me. Someone prefers to keep it more terrain and trail riding. And for this, we have a modification here, according to last year's, because the steering tube is cutted, but a little bit less than before. So you can place your bike higher or lower according to your style.
Exactly. Before we had only one spacer, now we keep 4 spacers, so everyone can adjust the length of the steerer and how high will be the handlebar.
According to their style, which is, in my opinion, really good.
And one more change when we talk about the Blackbirds is about the construction of the frame, because before only Blackbird 29 was dedicated for the boost hubs. For the 2021, we changed it, and both of them, Blackbird 29 and Blackbird 27.5, are now dedicated for the boost hubs, for the size 148 by 12.
Okay, we were before talking about the different styles of riding, and there are different preferred colors. So what are the colors in here in the versions?
Okay, so the Evo versions for the 27.5, the bike will be in the space blue color, and 29 we'll be using our very well-known Red Devil color. When we talk about the intro bikes, intro Blackbirds, the 27.5 will be in the Black Devil color option, so the black bike with the red stickers, and the 29 intro version will be black frame with the forest green, so with the dark green stickers.
Okay, so that will be it about the enduro bikes. If you're looking for the other bikes, you can find them at the other videos at the Dartmoor Bikes YouTube channel.
See you!
See you!